Welcome back. So today's video we are going to make a knife from start to finish. I am reusing some of the footage from my feature-length film on hacksawing and grinding because I want to do a spotlight for each of those knives, however they end up turning out. Fun fact, this knife shape was supposed to be a Buster Sword from Final Fantasy VII, Cloud's Buster Sword. However, as you can tell by my perfect drawing, it doesn't really pan out. But I do have a shape, and I think even at this stage, I was like, this could be a marking knife easy. And in the interest of not making you watch all of the hacksawing all over again, we're going to go a little bit quick through this. I do like to show the entire process. I'm interested in every piece of it, and hopefully you are too. If you like all this stuff, like and subscribe and comment and all that other YouTube stuff. It helps me, it lets me know if you like something, and if you don't like it, it lets me know if you don't like it too. So fast forward a lot of hacksawing later and some good and bad decisions. Those will be later. At a later date. At a later date, those knives will be later. Sorry. So, this is the first time that I have filmed anything on the 2x72. And I'm very, very pleased with how wildly efficient it is to use this thing for what it's for. I absolutely adore it. It is a Alex Steel 2x72-inch belt grinder, and for what it's worth, I can't really do a review on it because I don't have enough experience using it yet. I'd like to get some more time under my belt with it, and then I'll give my thoughts in, say, 6 months, maybe more, maybe less, when I've used it enough that I feel like it's useful information. That's when I will sort of put my 2 cents in, other than I absolutely adore it. So here are some questionable choices I'm making with the Tang area and the way that the knife is supposed to be sort of seated into the handle. This is one of the reasons why it is super important to get your template or your knife design. Nail that down first. Get that design how you want it on the steel, and then start grinding. If you go freeform, you're going to end up with mistakes like this. Does it hurt what this ends up becoming? No, not really. But it's good to do things correctly. That's so wildly helpful, Adrian. I'm so happy that's how you're ringing in the new year. Anyway, I did find this little thing out. Having something to push, like a push stick, or in this case, a knife blank that I can push the Tang in. I can get nice and even, and I don't have to worry about scorching my fingers or it taking super long. But the knife is profiled, and I decide, this is the point where I decide it's only going to be a chisel grind. And it's genuinely just going to be a chisel / marking knife. This was the inception of that idea because, I'll be honest, this particular grind was going well, and I liked it. That's it. That's the only reason. Also, this is a 36 grit belt, so it is going super, super quick through this. In retrospect, I probably should have given myself a little bit more meat on the edge, even at this point, so that I could go up higher grits without thinning the edge or risk scorching it later during heat treat. By now, I have ground several knives. But I believe that we have moved to a 120 belt. Now, to my credit, to credit my stupidity, I should have gone up the grits at least somewhat, because I didn't get out a lot of scratches with this. I got out the big scratches, but there's some deeper ones that hand sanding kind of revealed later. There's also a very strange vertical scratch on the top there that I'm pretty sure you could see it. I don't know what that is. I don't know where it came from. I don't think that I did anything too stupid to make that. So I'm not really sure sort of what's going on there, but I'm getting my flats as flat and as clean as I can get it with a belt sander. And once this is sort of done, we'll be able to move on with all of the handwork that goes into making these damn things. There's so much hand filing. Sorry, there's so much hand sanding, excuse me. You can't get away from it, you can't run from it, it's always there, and it's always watching. It's the horror movie villain that you never knew you had. So a little bit of shaping on the Tang, just to kind of make sure that I don't let the Tang be thicker than the sort of blade. Oh, okay, so that, I believe, is a 36 grit finish, and now we're on to the 120. It's okay to be wrong, Adrian. You can be wrong. It's fine. Nothing wrong with it. Except for me, I am wrong. So yes, we're taking out the heavy scratches from the 36 grit belt on a relatively fresh 120 belt. I was very scared of messing up the edge there, and I kept my thumb as close to the edge as I could, just to feel how hot it was getting and trying not to let it get too hot. Even though it hasn't been heat treated, it just seems like a good practice to be in. So this is preheat treat, and is it a good idea? I don't know. I don't know if it's a good idea to hand sand beforehand. Hey, hand sand beforehand. But the steel is significantly softer. It has not been heat treated. So I just kind of go for it, and it doesn't take too long, but I definitely need to invest in some higher grits. I got some for Christmas that I haven't used. But I will invest my time into getting better at grinding so that I can kind of take as much time out of hand sanding as humanly possible. That being said, I do like... Hey, stop running away. You can't run away from hand sanding. It will always find you, and it always knows where you live. Again, basically a horror movie monster, except that you're doing it to yourself. I decide that that's good enough. It's good enough to throw into the first heat treating oven forge. It's a hole in 2 refractory bricks. It does the job. And I do need to find out if it gets too hot. So if it doesn't get too hot, I can put it on a table and get a more stable setup with how it is. But on the floor, this is what I deemed safest, so that's where I did this. Little map gas torch in the sides is doing good work. And I very quickly ran out of map gas, and I couldn't do this long because I am in a garage, and I will need to figure out ventilation for forging another time for sure. I just want to get it up to non-magnetic, which I don't have a magnet on hand, so I just go by cherry red, and the lights are on, so it's hard to determine that. So I'm guessing. This is all guessing and going into cold vegetable oil, which, as I understand it, Not ideal. But this is where luck comes in. A brick fell off of my oven, and I felt like I almost could have burned down my house. Anyway, the bottom of it, or like the thickest parts of it, aren't hardened, but the edge did get hard, and it maintains that hardness, and it maintains its edge pretty darn well. So I got really lucky. I tempered it at 400 degrees for, I think, an hour and a half. You can see with the diamond stone there, it's not super flat on the bottom, or not as, it could be flatter. But I took it through several diamond stones, and I sat there, and this was the result I got on the back. And while it's shaving sharp, it's hideous. So I decided to go through the whole rigmarole, starting at 220, going all the way up the grits. Just make it to the point where I feel satisfied with it as a finished knife. And I will be damned if I did not take off a significant amount of steel, or, just skin from my hand. The more of the sandpaper that you can use, the more of the grit that can get utilized, the better by a lot. I'm also using like a window cleaner as instead of water, just because I don't want it to start rusting like instantaneously. And there is absolutely no way of making a knife and having clean fingernails. So, while I do kind of apologize, I can't really apologize for having gross fingernails. It's just part of the process. So, going through, I get all the scratches that I possibly can out of the sides, of the back, of the top. And while it's shaving sharp right now, I'm going to have to do the bevel again as well, just to make it all look cohesive and make it so that I'm happy with it. There's a nice slurry of steel goop on the sandpaper, so I did my job, and its only job is to be a sharp, pretty knife. Now it isn't sharp anymore. Or at least it is not going to... It's not shaving sharp, and you don't need a marking knife to be shaving sharp. But I kind of really want to make sure it gets there. So this is going through the grits. We're going at 400. We go from 400 to 600 to 800 to 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000. And could I do a better job? Sure. Am I going to? No, absolutely not. I do as good a job as is necessary. But I think 400 grit is my favorite. I think 400 grit is my favorite grit to stop at. It's pretty. It's a little satin. It's a little mirror. It's very nice, and I love it. I go higher because I think it's cool, and that's pretty much the only reason. So that's the whole thing at a 400 grit finish. It's a little hard to sort of see how satiny it gets, but like if I stopped there and I sharpened it, I'd be happy as a clam. And it's also been a long time since I've used sandpaper specifically to do this kind of thing. I really like it. I think sandpaper might be... Sandpaper and... No, I think just sandpaper might be my favorite method for doing this. As opposed to, say, stones or diamonds. Diamonds can get something technically flat, but it takes one stray diamond to be a little higher than another, and then all of a sudden you've got a gouge in your knife that is going to take forever to get out. So just time, patience. I'm taking just the back and the bevel all the way up the grits. Mostly because the top doesn't need to have that sort of mirror shine to it, but also it's hand sanding, and I believe this took about 11 minutes total, 11 or 15, something like that. But all those times start to go up way higher if you're doing every surface of the knife at that sort of attempted mirror polish. Also, full disclosure, I am very gently lifting up the tang of the knife when I'm trying to get all the way to the edge of the edge, just because it is ever so slightly rounded on the bottom. This ensures that I get to that nice fine edge, but I also don't how do I say it? Not neglect. I'm making sure that I get the whole surface. That's what I'm trying to say. This is the take that I'm going with. I am not starting this voiceover again for the 11th time. We're not at shaving sharp yet. So, some compound, some stropping, and we're not at shaving sharp yet. And instead of going all the way back to sandpaper, I just need to do it. I just need to strop it a lot. So after a minute or two of stropping, we're there. We're there, and I am very pleased with how sharp this dang thing is. We've taken care of sort of the ugly back of it. We've taken care of the front of it. It's sharper than its job requires, so that makes me pretty happy. And it's all the way up and down the length of the blade too, which I haven't gotten something this sharp in a long time. It's awesome. I hate having arm hair on my knife, so I get really kind of squirrely. But it's also really fun to shave my arm, which is a real problem. I'm just going to run out of hair on my left arm. And then my left side. I'm in danger, and I am the danger. Anyway, we're going to make a little pinhole in the tang. I tested it to make sure that it was still soft, and it is. And a little 16th inch hole goes in there real easy. Just like that. Cool. Thumbs up. I've got some wood material ready to glue up into a handle, or handle material, as some might say somewhere. But this is a piece of paduk and a mystery piece of wood that I don't entirely know what it is. I just know that it's pretty. I like wood glue when you're gluing wood to wood. And if anybody is like ever curious about how strong in-grade to in-grade gluing is, there's this awesome video series that a guy is just, I don't even know his name, but he tests in-grade to in-grade joints, and they are stronger than every other version of joints. It's crazy. I never would have guessed it. If he wasn't doing something very scientific and control based and yada yada yada, it's really worth. Just look up glue myths, in grain gluing. It's fantastic. Anyway, enough of me telling you to go somewhere else and watch something. I'm sort of cleaning this up a bit to make it easier to do what I have to do later. I've got to find the center, or I got to find where the tang is going to go on the outside of the knife. Mark the little knife hole, pinhole? Yeah, pinhole. Drill that all the way through. Fun fact about paduk, you absolutely have to wear like mask, eye protection, ear protection, because the dust will give you like flu-like symptoms. It's super, super nasty for you. I do not recommend it. So, speaking of things I don't recommend, I don't know how much I care for this method, but I didn't really have another choice. And if eagle-eyed knife makers out there will notice that I didn't actually mark how wide this stupid thing is, or how wide it's supposed to be. That's because I'm planning on putting a bolster, or just I guess a plate, between the knife and the handle material, just to cover all my crimes up. This questionable maneuver is my least favorite thing in the world. I don't like it. I should make myself a knife brooch, which, ironically, I would probably have to do what I just did there to make the knife brooch work. But the knife goes in, and you can see through the pinhole. So everything's lined up. Now I just need to make the little metal plate. And this is, I believe, 1/8 inch copper. It's just regular copper. It was always meant to be a knife handle material. So, yay. I'm maybe a little out of practice, but 1/8 inch material takes forever to saw through. Especially with a jeweler's saw. But I'm going to make you watch the whole thing. All of it. Done. So, off camera, I drilled a hole in it, not because I thought you didn't need to see it, but because I didn't think that you needed to see me struggle putting a hole into a piece of copper. Now, hand filing. Let's talk about hand filing these little holes right here. This is the safest way that I could go about it. It takes the longest, but drilling 2 holes, for example, not great. If you mess up, you have to start over. If you mess up if you mess up at making it too wide, almost universally you have to start over. You could hammer the sides. Maybe there's some way to salvage it. Maybe you can say it's an art piece and you're just fine with it having mistakes. But in the interest of getting better at knife making, doing this the right way slower is the right way to go about this. And aside from the chamfering that I did on the tops and bottom of the hole, I nailed the width. Spoiler alert. I did really good. But as you can see, it's just hand filing and patience. The most boring band name that I could come up with. We're about halfway there. I don't know how long this took, but I feel like it took about 20 or 30 minutes. Lots of back and forth. Maybe I'm gonna push it closer to the 20-minute mark. But with that, I believe we can get it all the way up to where we need to get it on the top of the knife. Looks like it. So that works. I can see daylight through the hole. We're in business. Next, I'm going to texture the top of it. You have to finish the top before you glue anything on, because you'll never get a chance to do it again without hurting the blade. And we're not about hurting the blade in this channel. I take it from 200 to 800 grit with absolutely no stops in between. I really just kind of want to get a bit of a sheen on there, and then I use my texturing hammer that I absolutely adore. That this is its first time being used for something that goes onto a knife, and I'm very proud of it. It does a good job. I hope everybody had a nice New Year's. I had a nice New Year's. I can't complain. Have you run out of things to talk about in a way that you forgot you're making a knife making voiceover? So, now that I've hit it with a hammer, I've got to kind of widen the hole. So about 10 strokes. About 10 strokes takes off just enough to get this in there. One stroke too many, you're starting to make a gap. One stroke too few, you could probably hit it in with a hammer. And the hammer method does give you clean results, but this is probably one of the better knife fit-ups that I've done. I super glued the copper to the top of the paduk. Possibly a mistake, but it's being held together with epoxy and just the pressure of the knife being pinned into the handle. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I just decided that it would be a much bigger pain in the ass and many more things to juggle, and I didn't want to do any juggling. So we'll see how that goes in the long run, but epoxy all the way up and down the tang, epoxy in the hole, epoxy on the pin, epoxy on your mom, epoxy on your cow. You know how this goes. It's just 5-minute epoxy. It's what I had on hand, and I wanted to finish this all in a day. I think about a total of 7 hours worth of garage time was needed to make this handle. I'm looking forward to getting more efficient, but I'm good with this. This works. I use a little bit of acetone, acetylene, if you will. And we clean up all the excess epoxy on the top of the handle, and that is running around the blade. You'll find out later that I could have done a better job at that. That's fine. So, epoxy is about 30 minutes set. It's good enough to work with. I had a mask on and a respirator on this entire time. I am not even fucking around with my lung health. And especially with metal filings and paduk dust in the air and just like a general lack of ventilation in this one-car garage, I am pretty much exclusively walking in there with a mask on. There's no way. So I am trying to keep the copper cool with the ice over there. Is it a good idea? I don't know. Is it a bad idea? I don't know. We'll find out. It certainly didn't hurt anything. And I really didn't want to burn the super glue off just in case it's doing anything to keep my handle together. But just to see how fast ice melts on copper in general, it's gone. It's so neat. Copper is also very conductive, so even if it wasn't really hot, it would still just destroy an ice cube. So, I decided on a sort of rectangular-ish, roundish handle. And next time, I will be more aggressive with my handle shape, I think. But for what it's worth, I really don't want to blow a hole into the side of the knife where I don't necessarily know where the drill holes go. So I kind of had to re-square, re-center, and redo the sort of shape of the wood in a way that it took a lot more time and effort to try to make everything even. This is to say that the knife tang isn't in the center. It's not perfectly straight up and down. So it took a lot of doing to get things in a place where I'm happy with it. So fresh 80 grit belt does the job. I'm happy with it. I've got my vacuum going to suck up as much air dust as possible. I do not want to start any fires because I left a bunch of dust around. Fire scares me. A little bit of shimmy sanding. And I only really take this up to a 220 grit. And at the very end of the day, when I sort of saw how it worked, I realized that there's a train in the background and you can hear it. Yeah, there it goes. Anyway, I realize now that the sanding job I could have been more particular on, and if I ever revisit this handle and like make it prettier, that's something that I would fix. As for the rest of it, there's nothing to fix. It's just a handy little knife. And that's a handy little train out there. Just doing his handy little train thing. Sorry. So, the little silver pen, I like it. I like it a lot. And it is sterling silver. It's what I had on hand. Trying to clean up this bolster area. I kind of wish that I got a mirror polish on the copper, but it's neither here nor there. It doesn't stand out as being wrong. It's just something that I would like to do on a future knife. And you can see that our first acetone wipe down, the grinder hit hit the blue tape and went all the way through to the blade. It didn't take much, but about 10 minutes of hand sanding with 220 grit just to get it done is what it took. But eventually I erased those marks. What was I saying? The epoxy kind of got on the knife, and I just need to get some more acetone out and some Q-tips, which you'll see in a bit. I don't know, I'm rushing ahead, but I am. And just like that, we have a cleaned up side of the blade again. And back to the epoxy. So, acetone, Q-tip, just get it done. Clean it up real nice. Don't use more acetone than you need. Masks, good. Wear mask, wear respirator. Also, wear gloves. Acetone is nasty, nasty stuff, and you do not want it. And you don't want it in open cuts. You don't want it in your bloodstream. You don't want it to soak through your hands. Acetone is dangerous. It's exceedingly flammable. It burns invisibly. It cleans epoxy very nice because it is dissolving the plastic. It's very, very handy stuff to have around. Just like with anything in here, I think every single tool that I've used up until this point could kill you. So respect that, and you'll be fine. Could you die by a hand file? Absolutely you could. Could you die by a knife? It's a knife, yes. If you drink acetone, you're dead. Don't do it. Like, everything that I've decided to do is dangerous and scary, except that it's not when you treat it with respect. Yeah, it still shaves. So much danger. And now we just finish it. She's done. If we're oiling it, we are closing the books. The mystery wood on the bottom really pops. I really like that. It looks like it's split down the middle there, like with two different types of wood, but it isn't. It's just super neat. The paduk is always going to be pretty. It's so red. And after you cut it, or I would say that without oils of any kind, it oxidizes and gets darker and a more rich sort of vibrant red. And the finish that I'm using is just, it's Butcher Block Beeswax Finish. I like it. Mineral oil and beeswax doesn't tend to yellow, and it's food safe just in case, I don't know, you want to do some apple carving. So yeah, I put this on, I buff it for way too long, and then off camera I do it again, but finishing wood is genuinely one of my favorite things, and I am so happy to do it again on this channel, and I refuse to fast forward it. Although this is a bit of gilding the lily, because, I mean, the finish is on there. The transformation is made. The knife is done, man. Well, we can't just sit here and enjoy it. I can sit here and enjoy it. You can too. If you like oiling wood, like and subscribe. Excuse me. Sorry, I had a minor lapse in judgment. I decided to talk. So yeah, you can see that there are some slightly deeper scratches in there, and honestly, I decided to live with it because it's good. If I want to sell this knife, I'll probably go back in and clean those scratches off because it is one very clear thing that is like glaringly could be better. So I do decide to buff it, or just an attempt at buffing it before the wax has really gotten hard or vitrified or whatever wax and oil does. But that's it. Knife's done. Now, what do you do with this knife? You mark stuff. So, when you're woodworking, just in case you don't know, you want to make very precise lines, and pencils and pins don't really give you the most precise line you can get. But a literal razor's edge of a knife, that will give you a very clean mark, and you can use the chisel side to make it into, to upgrade your mark into a knife wall. And the knife wall is used as a guide for sawing. So you would, just like I made a groove for a hacksaw, it's like making a groove for a wood saw, especially in hand woodworking. But the benefit of it being part chisel is, it'll chisel wood. So it's got a little bit more broad use. I would change the design of the next marking knife that I make. It was fun to make it, and I would enjoy improving it. Improving a new one. I'm not doing anything else to this one. But as you can see, it does what it does what knives do. Cuts. And the person holding it, me, can use it pretty incorrectly too. I was just having, this is now a dedicated block of wood for testing knives. And I will be very slowly destroying it over the course of the next year. I've also never been more careful with a knife, knowing how sharp it is, to not like slip and jab it into anything. I'm cutting towards the camera, I'm not cutting towards myself. And after all that, it still shaves. So, that's a win across the board. As it is, thank you for watching. Happy New Year. I hope you do something in the new year that makes you genuinely happy, as long as it doesn't genuinely hurt anybody else. Like making knives. Make knives. Make a knife. Do it. Do it, coward. I don't know why I'm making you on, but yeah. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you genuinely have a nice year, and hopefully we are done with a couple of... Hopefully we're done with some shitstorms. I like how this came out. I like learning new things, and I will keep doing this. I will be making at least 7 more knife videos by the end of the year. If not many, many more. Alright, that's enough rambling. Thank you for watching. Have a good day, night, good everything. Bye!